Lesson 93, Dividing Polynomials. So there are two ways for dividing polynomials, and you need to know both of them. First of all, if we have a polynomial 8x cubed plus 12x squared plus 4x divided by 4x, you can factor first. Okay, so if we can see in our numerator, 4x goes into each of these terms, and we're left with 2x squared plus 3x plus 1, and divided by 4x. Now we're able to cancel the 4x on the numerator and the denominator. They go to 1, and we're left with 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. So this is one way to do it, where you factor first and then cancel. Here's another example of this nature. So x squared plus 5x minus 14. Instead of writing a fraction, we're going to do a division bar, divided by x plus 7. So I'm going to keep the first one, and in doing so, I'm going to factor it and put it over 1. So we're keeping our first fraction, then we're going to times it by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Okay, so this is like over 1. So this is x, I think of two numbers that multiply to get negative 14, but add to get 5. So that would be a plus 7 and a minus 2. So they multiplied negative 14, add to positive 5. And also I can have a clue right here where that's x plus 7. I can try that and see if it works. And of course it does. So we're going to cancel, and we could say the answer is x minus 2. And one more example I want to show where we can factor that way. X squared plus 5x minus 14 divided by 2 minus x. So I've already factored this above. It was x plus 7, x minus 2. And then I'm going to times it by the reciprocal, 2 minus x. Here's a problem. They're both subtracted, but they're switched. The x is negative here, and the 2 is negative up here. So what we can do is we can take out a negative 1. A negative 1. So we're going to take out a negative 1 right here. And we're left with negative 2 plus x. Notice that here the 2 is negative just like here, and the x is positive just like in the numerator. So we can cancel those, and we're just dividing by a negative 1. And when you have a positive divided by negative, you just get a negative, x plus 7. So that's kind of a trick that you want to learn so that you can actually do some canceling if you need to. Now I want to show you another method, which is called long division. I'm going to start by showing you a long division problem that you're used to doing. So we have 523 divided by 9. We start by dividing 9 into 52, which goes 5 times. Then we multiply. 9 times 5 is 45. Then we subtract, and we get 7. Then we have to bring down the 3. So notice we multiplied, subtract, bring down, divide. 9 goes into 73 8 times, which is 72. Multiply, and we're going to subtract, and we get 1. We don't have anything to bring down. We write our remainder as a fraction. We do the same thing with polynomials. So if I wanted to divide 13x squared plus 5x minus 42, and I want to divide that by x plus 2. What I do is I only have to look at the very first term right here. And I think to myself, what do I multiply x by to get 13x squared? Or what is 13x squared divided by x? And that's 13x. And I line it up right here by the x variable or term. Now I have to multiply. That was the next step we did. You multiply and then you subtract. So we do 13x times x, 13x squared, 13x times a plus 2 is a plus 26x. We have to remember to use the distributive property. Then we're going to subtract, and we're subtracting the whole thing. 13x squared minus 13x squared is 0. 5x minus 26x is a negative 21x. Then we bring down, just like we did here. You bring down the next term, which is a negative 42. Divide negative 21x by x, and you get a negative 21. Then we need to use the distributive property. This is negative, so negative 21 times x is negative 21x. Then we do negative 21 times a positive 2 is a positive 42. Nope, it's a negative 42, sorry. Negative, because it's a negative times a positive, it's negative. Okay, then when we subtract both of them, we do a negative 21x minus a negative 21x is 0. Negative 42 minus a negative 42 is 0. So we don't even have a remainder, and this is our answer, 13x minus 21. Now there's several things we need to remember. This polynomial needs to be written in standard form. And you have to add 0 coefficients if needed. 0. That means 0 coefficients, like 0x squared, if there's not an x squared, but it has an x cubed and an x. I think I'll show you what that means here in another example. And that's only if needed. So, let's see. Okay, here's one I want to do. Divide, this will be our next example. Divide, using long division, 3x, whoops, let's do it not in standard form, okay? Let's do 6x squared minus 7 plus 3x cubed divided by 4 plus x. Okay, so we have to write it in standard form. So here's my division. I put the first one is a positive 3x cubed. Then we have a plus 6x squared. There's a minus 7 here, but we need an x term. So this is what I mean by add 0 coefficient. You have to have your x in there. So just do 0 times x and then minus 7. And then for our division, what we're dividing by, we're going to switch so it's in standard form, x plus 4. Then we take 3x cubed divided by x is 3x squared. Then we use the distributive property. We get 3x cubed plus 12x squared. We subtract. 3x cubed minus 3x cubed is 0. 6x squared minus 12x squared is a negative 6x squared. Bring down. Then divide. Negative 6x squared divided by x is negative 6x. We have a minus 6x. Then we're going to use the distributive property. We have negative 6x squared minus 24x. You have to do negative 6x times 4. Then we're subtracting. So we have negative 6x squared minus negative 6x squared is 0. 0x minus a negative 24x is a positive 24x. Bring down a negative 7. Divide 24x by x and you get plus 24. And then you use the distributive property. You get 24x plus, and then 24 times 4 is 96. Subtract. We're subtracting the whole thing. Notice how I put the parentheses there so I don't forget. 24x minus 24x is 0, and negative 7 minus 96 is a negative 103. That's our remainder. So, and it's negative, so we're going to put a minus up here. We put our remainder as a fraction, 103 divided by our divisor, x plus 4. And that's the end of the lesson.